Yeah, I 100% did Final Fantasy 7 Remake Part 1. It doesn't say Part 1 on it, even though it is, because it's like the first 4 hours maybe of this game stretched into like 40 hours. Um, and I did it. I got the Platinum Trophy in, I believe, 103 hours, which for me is short. Like, it's a little bit sparse on the whole, but if you're just playing the story, it actually feels bloated. So it's kind of an interesting dichotomy. I would have rather 20% less story, 20% more optional side content, I think would have really set this off. So that's what's keeping it from being great to me. It's really, really good. It's just not, it's not perfect, you know? But didn't feel ripped off. Uh, Definitely gonna play part two. But the point of this video is to do something a little bit different than just impressions, because I played this game and I knew I wanted to make a video about it, but then I also said that, well, how do we make it different? How do I do something different with this video that also incorporates my feelings towards it and a hypothetical part two? So I came up with this little graph here, this handy dandy grid that will show us the content of Disc 1, Disc 2, the side quests after Midgar, and what to cut and what to keep. And I will point out that we're going to be leaning a lot more on keep because, well, just look at the amount of content we have to choose from. But we can also be a little bit more liberal with how we cut, because there's so much extra stuff after Midgar that you can fill up a 40-hour campaign easily. Like, it was hard to make this 40 hours, right? So they had nothing they could cut, really. But with this, we certainly can cut. Not that it's a great idea to really go cutting everything in such a classic game as this, but I think, 23 years on, I think there's some things we can admit are a little bit boring about this game, right? And second chances don't come often, and when they do, you need to seize the opportunity. And what I mean by that is there's things in here that aren't gonna quite make the grade anymore, and when I replay the game, there's parts that I just don't like. So yeah, we're gonna figure out what to cut and what to keep. So let's just get right into it. This comm section here, this is the first thing that happens right after you leave Midgar. Okay, so this should be the beginning of Part 2, Final Fantasy 7 Remake Part 2, which I'm sure there's going to be one eventually. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say a lot of the content in this town is pretty much pointless. If you think about the point of Calm, it's just to have a flashback. You get there, Cloud has a flashback about the events prior to the beginning of the game, and other than that, it's just a standard RPG town. What was the point in it? Really, like, it's totally forgettable. You can have Calm, but I think that it should be expanded. Okay, I think it needs to be almost merged with Chocobo Farm. Like, we need to have quests that go between Calm and Chocobo Farm, merge the two places together story-wise, come up with something new. So I'm going to say keep these two, but they need to be changed. They need to be expanded upon. Calm just can't feel like RPG Town number 6,529. It needs to be something different. It needs to become what the Sector 5 slums in Remake Episode 1 became. It was previously one-off area in the original, and it became something much more in the remake, and I think that should apply to Calm. The Mithril Mine. Yeah, this area, I can see how it would turn into a rigmarole and it could be really boring. Uh, Ultimately, it's just going to be an underground area that you walk around in. So you can kind of forget it, really. I mean, put the shit that you would that would happen in that in the overworld, you know, or spread it around a little bit. Junon, absolutely keep every single thing in this. It is iconic. You cannot go without it. Uh, Traveling from Junon to Costa del Sol. Now, this is the section of the game where Red 13 dresses up as a human in like human clothes. I think we can cut that. I don't think that's the end of the world. I think this could be a cutscene, honestly. It's not nothing really interesting happens on there. There's one fight with Genova that, to be honest, we just fought Genova at the end of part 1 of the remake. Maybe we don't need to have the Genova fight on there. And maybe we don't need to be wandering around on that like 2 floors of a ship forever. Nothing interesting really happens. And what interesting thing that does happen is going to be hard to get working in a remake of realistic proportions such as Remake Part 2 will be. Costa del Sol, again, highly unusual events take place here, like meeting Hojo on the beach. How the hell are you going to meet Hojo on the beach in the remake? Like, without the party trying to kill him? Like, it... Doesn't that seem strange to you? Like... I think we should keep it, but we should radically alter it. I don't think Hojo should appear there. And remember, it doesn't exactly have to follow the events of the original game anymore, because these are 2 different stories now. Like, this is Final Fantasy VII. This is technically Final Fantasy VII Reboot. Okay? It doesn't have to be the same. I think little plot weirdness like that can be cleaned up a little bit. I don't think we need the weirdness at Costa del Sol. Mount Coral we can absolutely keep. We need Barrett's backstory. His backstory, he has one of the best backstories in the game with what goes on with Dyne and whatnot. By the way, full spoilers for Final Fantasy VII and part 1 of the remake. Keep it completely. But Gold Saucer, yes. Coral Prison, cut. Sorry, I got that backwards. Gold Saucer, keep. Coral Prison, cut this. Make it a cutscene or something. It's not fun at all. You're wandering around that little town, and it's a piece of crap. Merge it into the Gold Saucer somehow, like plot-wise, or vastly change it. Gungaga, this is pointless. But this should be totally optional, which I think it even might be now that I think about it. But we're gonna say keep tentatively. Cosmo Canyon, I don't see any reason to change it. It works perfect as it is. Nibelheim, keep it obviously. Why change it? Rocket Town, meeting Sid and escaping in the tiny Bronco. How do you make this work? Okay, like how do you make the tiny Bronco work in the remake? Well, we're keeping Rocket Town, but I think we can cut the tiny Bronco. So I don't think anyone cares about it. So we're gonna cut the tiny Bronco. Why do we need the added confusion of a plane that doesn't fly? Gold Saucer, keep. not what could ever be wrong with Gold Saucer, right? The only thing I would do, I would make it, I would make the mandatory things you need to do in Gold Saucer a little bit faster. Um, some of the story things that go on there can drag on a little bit. Makes like going on a date and it just goes on a little bit too long. And the section with the play, I've never found it fun. But speed it up, but you can keep it. But expand on the optional things. Expand on the optional. Contract on the mandatory. That should be the way to go with Gold Saucer. Temple of the Ancients. There's nothing wrong with it really. It's necessary for the plot. But this whole crap with Bone Village, you can cut the hell out of that. Streamline it a little bit more. Make it obvious what you need to do. As a kid, I don't know how I figured out how to get the key that you need to get to like go through the Forgotten Capital or whatever, get like the harp or whatever the hell it is. I can't remember it now, so that means it's kind of inane and stupid. So we're just gonna go straight from Temple of Ancients to the Forgotten Capital. We don't need Bone Village. No one remembers it. Uh, Disc 2, and I'm gonna cut in where I think the logical ending for Part 2 should be, but it's gonna be right around here. This is where, in the Forgotten Capital, this is where, spoilers, Aerith dies in this area, so we're gonna keep it. But Icicle Inn, I mean, we need to keep it for the snowboarding, but I think we could expand it a little bit more. I think Part 2 should revolve around main towns. The main towns of Part 2 should be Calm, Icicle Inn, and maybe Costa del Sol, maybe. Like Nibelheim doesn't have to be that much larger than it is because it's mostly just a story. It's just there for a story event. It's not there for a lot of flair. But we should think about like structure it the same way Part 1 was, where you had Sector 7 slums, Sector 5 slums, and Wall Market. Like 3 hubs. So we got Calm Hub, Costa del Sol Hub, and Icicle Inn Hub. I think that's how I would do it. I mean, in Nibelheim, when you get back there anyway, it's a ghost town. So, spoilers. Rocket Town. I don't see why the party would immediately want to go back there, given that it would be crawling with Shinra, right? Because we just stole the tiny Bronco and tried to kill Palmer as we left Rocket Town. So that can be small. It can be a little outpost. Great Glacier. Cut. There's no... This shit isn't fun, guys. Like, just Icicle Inn, do a little bit of a mountain climb. Do Icicle Inn, snowboarding, a little bit of a mountain climb, maybe cram 2 bosses in there, but we don't need a huge deal going through a glacier. Like, it's stupid. Whirlwind Maze Keep. Junon. This is a return to Junon. Keep it, obviously. Medial. Yeah, this is where the plot gets a little bit odd. Like Cloud leaves the party, then you have to get him back. And I know that's a classic JRPG trope, and I kind of want to keep that, but I think that I think we can deal with it. I think we can keep Medial as it is. Just make it a small town, kind of like Coral or Rocket Town, like a small, only a few buildings, like a village. Mount Coral. Okay, retrieving huge materia. I think you should keep that. Fort Condor. Speed it up or cut it. When was the last time you ever heard anybody talking about how fun the mini games of Fort Condor were? I have never heard anyone talk about it. Every time I play the game, it's a new and magical experience when I get to Fort Condor, because I forgot that it existed. So it's gone. Uh, make put huge materia like in a different spot. Like put a huge materia in Costa del Sol. Okay, so take the Fort Condor shit, put it in Costa del Sol. Medial, the return to Medial, keep this coming to Medial, leaving, and then coming back. That's got to be streamlined somehow. Underwater reactor, that's awesome. Keep that. Underwater submarine, really want to keep the submarine. It's always such a treat when you're playing the game and then you get to that section where you get to control a submarine. It's freaking cool. And then you get to keep it and you get to go underwater on the map. Like, not a lot of JRPGs let you do that. So that's a unique flair of Final Fantasy VII that has to be kept. Rocket Town, return to Rocket Town, keep it. But I was thinking that what like would Sephiroth realistically summon Meteor in this game in part 2 if he knows it will fail? Because he has foreknowledge of the events of the original game, right? So it's kind of like this Sephiroth from this game is like he has already experienced this. So I was thinking that the rocket launch could actually be to intercept Genova, like another Genova, or another member of Genova's species. Like maybe we could expand on that, and we launch from Rocket Town to destroy it with Cid's rocket. Like that might be cool. Or the rocket even gets jammed inside this new Genova, or whatever you want to call it, and there's like a dungeon on the inside of it. That idea just came to me one night, and I've been clinging on to it since. Forgotten City and Diamond Weapon, keep. The Return to Midgar, yeah, keep it, but like, I mean, you should be able to like do it pretty easily. You already have the assets for Midgar, right? But yeah, I don't think you need to change it. You get on top of the cannon, you fight Hojo, he transforms, he dies, you leave, and there's like one other boss fight. I don't see anything wrong with that. Here's going into the last boss, Northern Cave, keep it. Why change it? Keep it. So we're gonna come up with a logical line where we could say, let's cut it, and say maybe we're gonna have 3 parts. I mean, it'd be cool if the rest of it all came in one part, but let's be realistic. It's Square Enix we're dealing with, so where should we put the cut for the end of part 2? What would be a cool last boss, we'll say, right? I mean, Ultima Weapon would be a cool boss to fight in Midil, right? But then again, that leaves not much new things for part 3, right? You know what? I mean, if we look at part 2, if we say Calm is a hub town, Costa del Sol is a hub town, and Cosmo Canyon is a hub town, then we got 3 solid towns here. And then if we cut it at the Forgotten Capital, we got Icicle Inn as a hub. We got yeah, it's a little sparse. We got Midil maybe as a hub. This sucks. How do we cut this? So if we want 3 hubs for side quests, a la part 1, for parts 2 and part 3, we're gonna have to have Calm, Costa del Sol, and Cosmo Canyon, and then we have part 2 would have not Rocket Town. Icicle Inn. Icicle Neptune, Medial. Reactor. Where could we? What could we do? Oh, well, hold on. We could do Wutai. We can make Wutai mandatory. Yeah, so that works. So if we put the cut right here, right, where Aerith dies, this would be cool. Because then we would go into part 2, Calm, the quests at Calm and Chocobo Farm, and whatever side quest we wanted to do. Junon is all story. Costa del Sol is our next hub. Golden Saucer, that's all story, but we can come back and play mini games. Cosmo Canyon is our next hub, and then once we leave Cosmo Canyon and you go to Nibelheim, no, when you get to Rocket Town, it should be more or less a straight line story all the way to when Aerith dies, because you're on the run from Shinra after Rocket Town, obviously. So I'm feeling that would make a good part 2. So part 3 would start at Icicle Inn. Kind of a weak start. I mean, both part 2 and part 3 are going to start weak. Like there's no cool bang to start each one of these games off of. It's gonna just feel like another episode of a TV show. Like I don't know how you really do the intro of these interesting, but part 3 is definitely going to be cool because you're going to be snowboarding right off the bat. So Icicle Inn will be like a hub. All the content that was in Gaia's Cliff and Great Glacier can be merged into Icicle Inn as optional quests that you do in a hub, like in a hub town. And then another area that would be like a hub town would be like Medial and Wutai, right? Because this can be mandatory, which would give us Wutai Pagoda, Turtle's Paradise, and yeah, that would be extra content that we'd have mandatory. Oh yeah, and the Fire Cavern, that would be all mandatory. So Wutai is mandatory in the way that we perceive of the remake part 2/part 3. So yeah, because we want Yuffie and Vincent mandatory, right? Like yeah, we can do that. Returning to Cosmo Canyon, why not? Return to Nibelheim, I guess so. Return to Rocket Town, why not? Chocobo Sage's house, why not? Why? Why do we need a key to go back to Midgar? It's stupid. Lucretia's Crystal Cave, that's a key part of Vincent's backstory, so we keep it. Sunken Gel Nika, keep it. Really need to keep that. That'll be like our endgame bosses area. And then like the final preparations of side quests would be the 3 optional weapons like Emerald, Ruby. Like Ultima is not optional, but you know what I mean. It's optional to kill him, but the initial fight with him is not optional. So we're gonna keep these. So this is looking pretty good. Disc 2 looks like it could be a lot of story. Disc 3, what am I saying? Part 2 looks like it could be a lot of story, and part 3 would be like a lot of the optional stuff. But Wutai would be mandatory in part 3. And what else could you do? Chocobo, the Chocobo racing, because we have the Golden Saucer in part 2, Chocobo Sage's house, we should be able to access that in part 2. So yeah, we're gonna say this should be in part 2. No, we get Vincent in When do we get Vincent? We get Vincent in part 3, so I don't need to worry about Lucretia's Crystal Cave being in part 2. Part 3, part 2, mandatory part 2, so we're gonna go 2, 2, 2, 2. No, let's make this 3, and that way we get Vincent in on this. We only do one return to Nibelheim and get Vincent and Tifa's Limit Break. Return to Cosmo Canyon 2. Actually, you should just be able to do that shit basically right after you leave if you wanted to. I don't see why not. Return to Rocket Town. 3. So yeah. And another thing I was thinking, wouldn't it be cool if we keep Hardy Daytona? You know? What if we just kept that to drive around on the world map with? You know? So, cut the buggy. Cut buggy. Cut Tiny Bronco. Put in Hardy Daytona. Explore the map with that like Final Fantasy 15. And you just immediately go straight to the Highwind, and then the rocket upgrade for the Highwind. You know? And you're keeping the sub. So, we're keeping the sub. Yeah. So you can be a bit of a son of a submariner when you're riding around underneath the waves. I think that looks pretty good. I think I've only cut things that nobody remembers, really. Yeah. So no Mithril Mine, no cargo ship. Coral Prison's mostly cut. Boneville is cut. Great Glacier and Gaia's Cliff pretty much cut or merged into Icicle Inn shit. Fort Condor cut. And Key to Sector 5, getting that cut. Does anyone see anything wrong with this? If you see something horrible with this, you can leave a comment. I think I'm well credentialed enough to make these choices because I have 100% of this multiple times. I do have a gold chocobo and all the summons and all the materia and whatnot. I think on 2 different save files, maybe. But I've had this game since right around launch. I've had it for, I think, 21 years. And like I said, I did platinum this. So, you know, don't say I don't know what I'm talking about. Or you can say that, and maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. But I think this could be fun. Yeah. So I'll see you guys